All right, we are live back in the weather house. Welcome back to today's weather tonight. I am here as always, your host, Cloud Hudson. Putting the microphone in front of me this time to see if it helps my noise elimination any. Might be a little louder than usual tonight, so just give me that feedback in the comments. How are y'all doing tonight? I'm doing well. I've got myself a glass of nice tea, some resiliency tea. That is butterfly pea flower, red clover, lemon balm, and something else I forgot. It's really pretty with the butterfly pea flower. It's like this really light purple color, but at first it's this blue color. Let's see if you can see this. Can you see the blue color in there? I'm going to see if we can do a little tea ASMR. Let me see if I can pour some of this in here. Yeah, there we go. I'll make it darker. This butterfly pea flower reacts with lemon juice to make a pretty purple color. So I just put more pea flower in, and I'm going to put in some lemon juice. And now we're more purple. That's pretty. That's really pretty. Tastes delightful. Okay. Didn't mean to give you drinking ASMR. Let's go ahead and get into tonight's top vibe stories. Starting with center of the earth. I did my notes slightly different today. But I'm still going to try to work. Yeah, I just feel like it doesn't quite have the same vibe if you can't see my face talking. Let's get back to good neutral. There we go. That's pretty. That's prettier. Okay. No, slightly. No, that way. There we go. That's good. That'll do. You know, I'm feeling like I want to light some incense today. I think that could be nice. That could be nice. Where is it? Where's my... Ooh, I don't know where it went. Let me get the other one. Oh, I stepped on my lap desk. All right. I hope you guys don't mind seeing my my headphones in this too much, because it really does help keep me focused to be able to hear my own mic audio. It just like feels like more of an event. This is my black salt little coffee pot, vintage coffee pot. That's my incense holder. We're starting with some good ASMR today. Start with some circle oil. Tea and oil. We are doing all of our ritual stuff today. We're doing all the, today is Saturday. It's Saturn's Day. It's a day for discipline and ritual and routines. So I'm going to do all my little routine stuff. Plus, I love the way that it sounds so good. This is water, Ayurvedic kapha water. Now, I should have something better than this to light it with, but this is what I've got. Beautiful. And then I just plop this. Let me get my little tongs. These are my little incense tongs for nestling it into my cauldron. There we go. All right. Now I have this little smoking pot. I don't know if it can be shown on the camera, but it is occurring. All right. Okay. So for today's weather, let's start with earthquakes because that's what I've got up. Today we had a earthquake in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, again, on magnitude 5 at 10 kilometers depth. That is, actually we had several. Well, that's in a large area. There were several off the coast, South America here, Galapagos Islands, roughly, Galapagos Triple Junction region, excuse me. And those, what's the order they happened in? We had first this 4.8, and then this 5, and then lots of, again, we are continuing with our wave of close to 5 at 10 kilometers depth earthquakes. Let's come over here. All right, we got more. That was from yesterday. Wait, was this from yesterday too? I think these are all from 12. I don't know if any of these say 13. And these are all ones we covered yesterday. Covered that yesterday. Here's a 13. Where is it? Oh, in the middle of the United States. Here we go. Right here in Oklahoma, we had a 4.1. Let's see, 4.1, 4.3. And then those are over here in the Galapagos. And they were at 6.5 and 6.7 kilometer depth. So I don't know if that is related to the rest of the wave break, or if in Oklahoma the plate is just a little weaker higher up than wherever everyone else is. Anyway, I'm just speculating because I'm not a geologist. I am just a casual observer. I feel like it's very fun to look at these things. My computer's been slowing down, so pardon me if it's a little buggy. Pretty quiet on the earthquake side today, guys. Let's see. Is this one from today? Yes, this is from today. Again, a 4.5 at 10 kilometers depth in Hokkaido, Japan. These are near west coast of Honshu, or I bet it's actually going to be the Noto Peninsula, where we've seen significant earthquake activity since the beginning of 2024. Yeah, those are the ones that were kind of off the coast yesterday. but all from yesterday. But the Hokkaido, Japan indicates that this wave might be traveling a bit up the coast. Let's do back out to global view. Let me see if it'll animate the quakes. I've been having some issues. Let's see. That's not quite doing it right. It should start with none. If we're going to animate the quakes, it should start with none quakes, and then there we go. There, 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 there. Then here. Pretty quiet. And then, oh, it doesn't even show the US ones. Well, I'm giving up on interactive earthquake browser for today. Not much to see there. Let's look at currently erupting volcanoes. We have a new report on volcanodiscovery.com. They've sent one of their scientists to Indonesia to give firsthand accounts of the eruptions taking place there. This is a really good website if you're interested in volcanoes. Yes, look at my targeted ads. They're very funny. The explosive activity continues. Nevado del Ruiz, that says explosive activity continues, but it hasn't been on the daily report for the past few days. Let's see the map. Lava flow eruption still continues. Let's do volcanoes and go to, no, I want to go to the map. Daily world map. Map of currently active volcanoes. Interactive map of currently active volcanoes. That's what we want to see. And let's go ahead and show quakes too, because my other earthquake viewer wasn't quite reporting everything that I know to be happening. Okay, so look at all that Lowotolo volcano. Started erupting on Christmas. Let's see. So did that one. Yeah, still got some significant volcano activity globally. Lots of unrest. Lots of active eruptions continuing. But again, with volcanoes, remember that we like to see something continuously erupting. We don't like to see the unrest, because that is what causes disasters. And also, let's remember that let's put these back on the plates. This is a reflection of just what we're currently, what is actively happening, but it's kind of like with weather stations where it's like, yeah, weather is always happening. There's always a status of a volcano. Duh. It's either erupting or it's not. Well, no, there's actually an in-between. Let's go over, but like, speaking of weather, that's what's more exciting right now. The tectonic and volcanic activity is kind of slowed down today, and so is the solar activity a bit. We're in the peak of the solar cycle. Obviously, those three things, because the sun's magnetic energy induces resonance with the Earth's core, and that affects the way that plate tectonics will present themselves, because it changes the underground background, like magnetic stuff. Let's go ahead and look at, I've got us on pivotal weather today instead of tropical tidbits, because I realized that they have a real-time mesoscale analysis view. So let's see what did happen yesterday with these temperatures. And we're going to see some cold Arctic air spilling into the United States. Look at that. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, but like scary, but gorgeous. Scary, gorgeous. You really see this kind of swoop in and spill in, and I like watching it flow like a glass of milk spilling. I also like, you can see how fluid it is. If you've ever painted with watercolors, or you've ever watched some solution, some concentration of something work itself into a solution, then you can tell that this looks like really good fluid mixing, where this is sinking into the country. Up here in the northern plains, the high plains, they are just been cold. All right. And you can also see, this is kind of where you get the 3D action of cold and warm air buoyancy setting up different. This is why we refer to, like, I refer to cold air as like a bowling ball, a cut off low as a bowling ball, because it's heavy, it sinks, it wants to go lower. And at first we were blowing right across the Rockies with, do you remember, we had a bunch of snow and rain in California, but the cold air hasn't wanted to move that way. The cold air has started going up through Canada and Alaska and down these plains, like escaping the Sierras and the rock, like not escaping them, but going around and getting kind of funneled in. If you think of how high the west of the country is, you would think you're a low air mass that doesn't have a lot of buoyancy. It doesn't want to lift up that mountain a whole lot. It doesn't have the energy. The heat is where the energy for the movement of the air is. Right? That and chemical stuff. But it doesn't want to go up those mountains. It wants to go around in the valleys and scoop down. And that's like a cold pool. We're almost setting up a giant cold air damming event for the entire country, with the warm air. If there was warm air aloft coming in across California, it would not want to mix, because the cold air wants to stay on the bottom, the warm air wants to stay on the top. So it's not exactly a cold air damming event, but it's almost like that on a mesoscale, a little bit. Now, meteorologists, don't come for me. Don't tell me that's not what a CAD is, but I really feel like this is setting up a nice like base of cold across the country. And this will continue to spill into the southeast and the northeast, the eastern half of the country. But again, it's going to run into these Appalachian mountains. So let me go ahead and mark some things. Is this where it's going to poop out on me? Yeah, there. I want this. So if this is kind of the bowl it's scooping into over here, this is the bowl, then this is the bowl that, and mountains kind of go up and around here. But I'm going to take that off because it's hard to see. This is the bowl that it's getting scooped up into, the Appalachian Mountains. So if you think about having one hand holding up here and one hand holding up here, it's going to want to settle in the middle. It's like the country is two hands holding out, asking for a bowl of porridge. Please, sir, may I have another? I don't know. You know, the shape of the country is this. Actually, let me make it the same side as what you're seeing on your screen. This hand being the Rockies and this hand being the Appalachians. It kind of scoops air down. So that's why we're seeing such far intrusion of this Arctic polar air mass into the deep south, while the coastal regions of the South are still flooded with this warmth. And also the warmth is from the sea surface temperatures, keeping everything really warm here. And let's talk about that thermal mass for a second. Let me go ahead and delete this. And pause at here. When we are looking at, let's look at, you could look at theta E. This is theta E is equivalent potential temperature. It's a measure of basically the energy in the air from all of the variables of the equation of state. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, you know how I just said that temperature and pressure and chemical makeup are what determine how much energy an air parcel has? Well, this is a variable that tries to equal it out so that you can see just how much energy it is and not like filtered through pressure, temperature, moisture. So theta E will show us kind of the amount of energy, like the contiguousness of like, these are the racetracks for the air parcels to move on. This is kind of the most even ground energetically for an air parcel to move along. So like you can see that with the wind barbs, they are kind of going along the line of both where circulation is and also not wanting to cross into higher or lower energetic states. Why did I pick this one? I didn't want to show that. I wanted to let's do that one. Temperature and wind barbs. God, it's such a complex little mess over here. I don't know if I even want to use that one, but here this is kind of, you can kind of see it here. This blue streak of freezing air kind of shows where the higher elevations are. The Appalachian Mountains all actually do go down through Georgia and Alabama. And they are made of rock. That sounds dumb. Of course, the earth is made of rocks, but they have a different thermal capacity. Like they can hold more or less heat than different types of soil. Different types of soil will retain heat longer than other types. And mountains are big energy reservoirs. You know how underground is still warm at the beginning of the winter and then it's still cold at the beginning of the spring? This is like that on a very large scale. The mountains act like ground for the air mass. I mean, they are ground for the air mass. There are more places for the ground to contact the earth where there's like, it takes a lot more energy to change the temperature, is basically what it means. Kind of. I keep saying kind of because I'm summarizing a lot. I'm like really generalizing. But you can see that why I'm bringing this up is that the mountains keep us safe. Mountains protect us. Mountains are God's or the universe's way of protecting an area and keeping it around longer, because mountains mitigate weather. They also create their own weather, but they also mitigate weather. So what I mean by this is our observations. This is what has already happened. This cold air has already spilled down here. But watch when we go to, let me see if I can pull up quickly. I'm going to do it in a different screen so that y'all don't see me Googling. Actually, I can just do it on this one. This is what already happened. Let's look at our models. I want to look at GFS. I know. Let's watch what happens to this cold air mass as we march through. Oh, is it going to let me play it? No, it won't let me play. Is there a play button? No. Animation, single image, forecast loop. I want to see forecast loop. That's what I want. There we go. All right. Let's watch what happens in this model, at least, to the cold air as it spills in. Spilling in. We got fringe coldness here. But as it's sweeping this way, as we get a negatively tilted trough, really booking it down here with these winds, it's not wanting to pass this border of the Appalachian Mountains. It stays on the western side. And even when it spills over across, it takes longer to heat up the leeward side of these mountains. Leeward meaning on the other side of the wind. Look at that. I mean, this has been the coldest forecast we've had for the mountain regions. Now, I'm biased. I'm in Western North Carolina, so I am very biased towards looking to what's happening here. But again, you see, we didn't even cool off that much from this big, cold polar air. It's really only while we actively have wind streaming in, cooling us off, that it remains. Let's go to, maybe I can show the history of this better because the forecast isn't really resolving what I want to show you guys. I kind of like stereographic more. I'm going to switch from this to stereographic. Yeah, then we're inside the earth. What? How could you be inside the earth? There's nothing inside there. Actually, there's a lot inside there. All right. Let's look. That's more like it. That's more like it. So imagine we're inside of the earth and we're looking up at it. Look at yesterday, clicking through. You can go back on this one. Let's go back to, okay, the last few days. Starts and stops these. As we click through, you see this warm air coming in, really sticking around in the East Coast. That cold air doesn't want to, just like it didn't want to move over the Rockies, it doesn't want to move over the Appalachians. It wants to scoop up into Canada again. Doesn't want to do that lifting. But also, it doesn't cool off. Any cold air that passes through doesn't cool this area off very much because it's got that baked in warmth still. We still haven't cooled off a whole lot for winter. I mean, it is colder. Don't get me wrong. There are blizzards across the entire northern United States. But the southern United States, we're still having that dry winter situation. Now I'm going into forecast land. Am I? A little bit. Let's go back to now. Let's go back to now. Rivers help when you don't have states on because they kind of go as the states. This is where we're looking right now. But you see even the wind streams, They're not going up and over. They're going up and north. It's not really, we're not getting very much zonal flow. Zonal is left to right and meridional is up and down. We're not getting much zonal flow here until we get above the mountains. Here you can see the wind diverting around the mountains. Once we get a little bit further up in the atmosphere, there's not as much preventing them, but it's still dragged by the surface air. The surface gives friction to the surface air, and then the surface air gives friction to the higher up air layers, and so on and so forth. And the 850 level still getting dragged by the surface just a little bit. But watch what happens when we go out to, let's say, the 700 level. Getting even more zonal because we're further away from the surface of the earth. The cold air can move that way. But what happens here is that cold air is now moving aloft over warm air below. So that wants to result in sinking motions, and that doesn't equal rain necessarily. Let's get out here to the jet stream level of non-divergence, or this is more of a jet stream level. Yeah. I mean, even still, we are still rocking down this positive, like this negative. Let's go to 70. And then we get into that global circulation. That's the time where that's the level of the earth where it's basically the biggest summary of the waves is happening. The summary of what the waves are doing around the pole is this. There's one big lobe over Canada and another big lobe over Russia and the North Pole area. Then let's go all the way out to 10. This is basically the ionosphere. You see what a difference. That is some interesting mixing up there. Because now we have 3 lobes, one centered over. Now this one has been spinning here for a minute, and there's also been a lot of earthquake activity in this area. And it's spinning down. We're in the northern hemisphere, so it's spinning down, so it wants to push air down. And you can see it gets really wet. Okay. Let's move on. Do I want to move on from weather yet? No, I wanted to talk about, the snow machine is evolving. We've got, let's go back to the surface. And okay, now we can see relative humidity. This is going to show me kind of a comparison for where it could rain or snow. We are still getting this massive Pacific Northwest blizzard. And if you want to see live coverage of the blizzard happening off the coast of Oregon and Washington, then you can go to Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. They are live streaming the blizzard, and they're in the Pacific Northwest. There are probably a lot of people live streaming their blizzards wherever they are. We're still getting lots of, let me pull up the rain gauge. Let's pull up the rain gauge network. I want to do full country. Well, let's look at North Carolina. We had a lot of rain here in North Carolina. And again, you're seeing, you don't really get to see much happening here. You get a lot more once you get out in the flatlands. This is the flatlands. This is about the Piedmont. This is about the mountains. This is the flatlands. Let's go to national. And again, CoCoRaHS is a citizen science network. It is no one agency. It is just individual people all over the country who measure their own rain gauges. They all have the same rain gauge, so it's kind of standardized, and they all report at 7 a.m. every day. So this is technically the rain or snow that happened from yesterday. This is any precipitation at all. You see we're getting some massive amounts out here. If that's in snow and we're getting 2 inches of just precipitation, that is a lot of snow. Let's see what the snow results were. Yeah, we're getting a lot of snow spreading down into Missouri, the Ohio River Valley, up into upstate New York. This is where they're getting a lot of lake effect snow now. You can see it how you know lake effect snow is the bands of snow will come downwind from the lake. So let's look at the precipitation. It's not what I wanted. Give me precipitation type. Come on. You can do it, Pivotal Weather. You're pivotal. You can do it. Sometimes it doesn't like me. It's annoyed because it's like, why have you done 2 weeks of streaming about forecast analysis and not used me yet? Okay. I think you can kind of see what I mean here. When wind, you can kind of think as it wants to go parallel. Oh, I don't want a sounding. No, don't give me a sounding. I should do drawing. Let's step through and see if I got a better illustration of lake effect. Because this snow machine should keep coming. There we go. Well, maybe you can see it here. Yeah, there. Okay. You see how there's banding? There's like a line of snow that's going like that. It's going right along the pressure gradient. The black bars here are the pressure isobars. So when wind sweeps along a lake, it picks up moisture like it would be picking up moisture over an ocean. But that only kind of happens in these little ribbons because a lake is small. There are only a few different places you can see it snaking down. You have to imagine that you're a piece of air going through and you went over a lake. Of course you're going to snow. But if you're a piece of air right here and you're going through, like, let's start on the thumb of Michigan. If you're a piece of air starting through and you're just going along parallel to the wind bars, you're not going to pick up much moisture to create some snow. So that's lake effect snow and how we can see the banding of it. And I mean, this kind of suggests that lake effect snow is going to make it all the way down to Tennessee. So that would be cool. Let's see. Let's just step through this because we can see our second winter weather storm coming soon. Let's get more. Oh, lots more rain coming. Lots more rain coming. Yeah, so that was our big cold pool, cooling everyone off, kind of blowing across the soup, like cooling it off. But then we'll get this kind of stirs up in Canada. It just dwells itself there for a minute. And then we get that tropical jet come up and wants to dump some moisture here. We're going to have more. We have seen some significant flooding across the southeast. At least in my area, there has been some significant flooding. So I'm not looking forward to more flooding from this, but I do hope that everybody stays safe. There might be January tornadoes for Florida. We just don't know yet. But we're not seeing, I mean, these little mashups want to do something, but it's actually so chaotic of a surface in the Rockies that there's not much pattern to pick up. But once we get into the more well-established geography of the United States, I say well-established because the East Coast is older than the West Coast. The West Coast needs to weather down a little bit and figure out what it's doing. It's like a pot. The mountains of the West Coast are like a pot that just started boiling, and the mountains of the East Coast are like a pot that already boiled and came off to a simmer, and now it's at like a slow roll. Like it knows what it's doing. But it's pretty much already the soup you're going to make at this point. This over here, it's like we don't even know what the soup is going to look like. I hope that makes sense. Let's go now to our solar weather. We had also quiet weather today. We had very little activity for peak of the solar cycle yesterday. We only had like 5 coronal mass ejections, and that meant that today's X-rays flux was pretty low. Pretty low. Let's look at the SDO. Oh, I didn't bookmark it. Solar Dynamics Observatory. Let's see. This is the magnetogram, so you can see the polarized, like the poles of the sunspots, and this is what gives them their classification. The orientation of where the magnetic poles are in the sunspot groups is what gives it its classification of like, and those orientations kind of show us what type of eruptive activity will happen there. So we've still got several very large sunspot groups making their way across the Earth-facing side of the sun. But that is not all, because we are going to have a very active region scoot into our, from the far side back into our near side view again. The sun has a 27-day rotation cycle. So just like the Earth spins on its axis, the sun also spins on its axis. And the sunspots make their way around the sun about every 2 weeks, but like slightly less because it's 27, not 28. Every 2 weeks, the sunspots come back. And if they survive their trip around the sun, they can be pretty strong, and or like they will show up again. And the sunspot group that launched that 7 point something X class flare back on 7.5 back on, or whatever, that X class flare that happened on New Year's Day, that sunspot group that launched it is about to rotate back into Earth facing view again. Let's take a look at the a little loop of this sun activity so you can see some of these launches. I mean, you see several, but you can also see them waiting, twiddling their thumbs. I see the filaments arcing over to each other as twiddling their thumbs, and they will eventually, these arcs start as like one simple loop, and then that induces resonance with the other magnetic hotspots around it, and they start making their ropes, their loops, and then those ropes get tied together, twisted around. And once they get so twisted around that they have more connection to each other than they do to the magnetic source of the sunspots down on the sun's surface, the level it's coming from, that's when it's launched, is when it's more tied up in its rope than it is tied up to the sun. I hope that makes sense. We had some beautiful I do want to take you to see one of the CMEs that happened today, though, because we had a pretty cool one. I wonder if I can remember which one it was. Oh, we just had another. Since I looked at this, is it the long duration one that I looked at that had the... Yeah, there was the big whoosh. Let's look at that again. Look at it again. You can see it going all over the place. Coronal mass ejections just going off. We had, let's see, we're at 51. Started at 46 today. So we've had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 today. Yesterday, when I reported, we only had 5 on the 12th, and now we are up to, let's see, 15 actually did launch on the 12th, and a lot of it came after I broadcast. We got 5 more after I broadcast. So I expect that maybe, and it was only at 5 today when I went to broadcast, and then we got another. I expect today that maybe we'll get another few CMEs before the technical UTC time day is over. Now, let's take a look at today's planetary activity. Remember, astrology is God's dashboard for the universe. This is, I think of the planets as the way he controls us by moving around the little game pieces on Earth and making the magnetics do what will create us and our everything that is created, other than our free will, which is and comes from within. Today's current planets. Are we in a Mercury hour right now? I think we're technically not. I think I loaded that. No, we are in a moon hour. We are in a lunar hour right now on Saturn's day. So maybe that's why I was feeling such a body vibe. I wanted to, light my incense and have my tea going. Wanted to have, speaking of which, my incense is kind of petered out. Kind of lost its shine there. Don't know where it went, but it went down into... It's warm. So this is showing you the thermal mass. When I put a hot piece of incense inside of this, it looks like sand, but it's actually salt and incense dust. When I put it into here, the heat doesn't just escape into the room. It escapes into the salt itself, and the salt holds the temperature longer than the air would. And that's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about the thermal mass effect of mountains. They will soak in the cold and the warm that goes over them and hold it longer. And so it takes more cycles to cool off the mountains than it does the plains, because they're closer to their... the air is in contact with the earth. The air is in more contact with the earth in the mountains than it is in the plains, because the surface area of the earth is higher when it's wavy. So that means that the air is more in contact with the thermal mass of the earth, meaning if the earth is warm and the air is cool, it's going to take a lot more cool air to cool off this area. Anyway, I wanted to talk about the planets. We have the moon about to join Saturn here in Pisces, making its way through Aquarius. And that is sextiling very nicely Mercury in... We got a really nice Mercury sextile moon. So this is actually kind of the perfect time for me to do this broadcast, with the moon applying to Saturn. And I'm on Saturn's day in a moon hour. And that is sextiling Mercury and Jupiter. That's got to be a recipe for success. If I don't, it's got to be a recipe for success of just doing your stuff. I don't know if it's going to make it big, because it's kind of opposed to Leo. This is kind of doing the real thing as opposed to looking like you're doing the thing. So I'm not going to look like I'm doing the thing for a while, but I am doing the thing. Let's see. I mean, when the moon joins Saturn, it can also be a hard time for your body, but it can be a really good time to get physical feedback from your body. The moon representing body and the Saturn representing discipline, firmness, structure, absoluteness. It can be like, yeah, this is really what your body is doing today. Your body actually really whatever's showing up for you today physically is what you need to pay attention to. This is where, and your body also manifests your trauma, your emotions, what needs to be worked out, your imperfections, or like where you're holding negative energy. So pay attention to whatever body things come up for you today. This trine always fakes me out because I don't really see aspects to Lilith. I don't study aspects to the Black Moon Lilith very much. That Venus in Sagittarius is almost ready to trine or to, well, no, it's in conjunct from, no. It's looking at Uranus in a way. We're almost at Mercury and Capricorn. We're so close. Maybe I'll be less scatterbrained once we have Mercury and Capricorn. In Capricorn? Capricorn. And we are still in the shadow of Mercury retrograde. So until we get past about, I think it's like 10 or 15 degrees of Capricorn, we're not going to see much clarity over what happened since about December 13th to now. December 13th being when Mercury went into retrograde. Was there anything else I wanted to mention on this? I don't think so. I think that's about all I wanted to mention for this. Was there any other page I wanted to pull up? Because I did have to click out of all my... Let's look at the composite map. I did want to say yesterday I mentioned that they might be evacuating Reykjavik, or not Reykjavik. They might be evacuating Grindavik again. And I confirmed that today. They will be on Monday morning evacuating the town of Grindavik again for at least 3 weeks due to the increased risk of cracks opening up in the ground, just swallowing people up. The ground's just gonna open up and swallow up houses. So you can't be in that house. Makes me really wonder what the Blue Lagoon is gonna do. How is that not at risk of cracking? Don't know how that's allowed to be open while they evacuated the town right next to it. But I'm not an emergency management services in Iceland, so I have probably different information than they're working with. So, you know, maybe they had some reason for doing that. Let's see, 12-hour precipitation. Do I have snow accumulation on this? No, I don't. Surface obs. I hate the color coding on this. SPC, please change your color coding. This is terrible. Yeah, really looking at lake effect snow here with between 700 and 500 having a good sandwich of moisture. This is usually the area of the sky that clouds will form in. So it's very favorable for creating lake effect snow to have such high relative humidities here, and not too high, because when we are over in like 90% relative humidity land, that's almost like a wall of water that doesn't want to do anything. It's the sweet spot is between, you know, what they're showing here. What they show here is between 40 and 90% relative humidity. Relative humidity, again, is I don't think I've explained it yet on this channel. Relative humidity is the percentage of moisture that is in the air that could be in the air. So it's like saying, if you say that this area has 90% relative humidity, it's like saying the sponge of the air has soaked up 90% of what it can hold. And that is a fact, that is a function of the temperature and the pressure, but like really it's a function of temperature and what kind of air pickup you can have. You can think of it as a function of temperature and dew point. The dew point is the measure of what 100% saturation of the air would be. The dew point is a completely full sponge that can't take any more water. And the actual temperature, and the dew point is a temperature. So dew point being a temperature means that that is the temperature. If we brought the temperature down while keeping the amount of water down, that's the temperature we would need to get to for it to be 100% saturated. Let's say that a different way. If we think of temperature as like the size of the sponge, maybe, then saying that a place is at 70 degrees with a 55-degree dew point means that with the amount of water currently present in the 70-degree air, that amount of water would completely saturate a 55-degree sponge. Okay? So it's like a ratio of how much of the sponge has been filled up, and that is shown with dew points. So let's show you dew points and temperatures at the same time. Can I do that? No, it doesn't really translate because it doesn't want to show me dew points that are too low. This is really only showing favorable for convection dew points, but it doesn't work like that in the winter time because the temperatures are so cold. Like you can't just go by like, oh, it should be at least 55 degrees. Let's say, yeah, down here on the tip of Florida, when I click on dew points, you can see the dew point is right about 70, 72, 76 degrees. And then when we put on relative humidity, where's that RH? We don't have surface RH on here. We only have mean. That's mean. Take those off. Where we were looking, aloft. Well, that's not a good example. I'll get a better example by tomorrow. Let's look at something fun. Let's look at, sometimes I like to come here on null Earth and look at particulates. This shows pollution, basically. And when I hover over, it kind of shows what kind of pollution. So dust extinction, this will show basically like stuff that's actual particles, like that you would notice as particles, things that you would notice in the air. And this is condensation nuclei. So you see it coming off of Africa. These are the dust particles that, this is sand from the Sahara coming off of Africa into the Atlantic, and that is where clouds condense and form. Also getting a lot of dustiness over here. I wonder if that's some blowing snow or just extremely fast winds. Particulate matters are done in the sizes, like the diameter of the particle in microns. So this would be particles less than 2.5 micrometers in diameter or radius. Let's do something coming out of here. Might be land-based pollution. Let's look at if this is traffic-y pollution or not. Yeah, it is. It's traffic-y pollution. Because look at this. I'm really not seeing much in the Northeast, but there's very fast winds there. Where there are low winds and high population density, there is a lot of particulate matter adding up. So the fast winds do cool it off, but it also gets the pollution circulating a little bit better. So this is when you're going to have breathing index problem. Like this is how they calculate what kind of respiratory index there is for the day. Space weather mode. Let's look at space weather mode. I think this will show auroral potential. Let's zoom out. Big bird's eye view. Big alien's eye view, I guess. Yeah. Not a whole lot. Still, I mean, it would be really cool to be in Iceland right now. I'm not even going to lie. Like, I understand why the tourists want to be there, because it would be really cool to be in Iceland and see the northern lights and a glacier and a volcano all at the same time. Like, that would be so cool to be in a geothermal spa while you see the northern lights and a volcano erupting. Amazing. It would be awesome if it were safe, but it's not safe to be next to an active eruption or it's not safe to be next to an impending eruption. Because when I visited Mount Etna in Italy, it was actively erupting from a certain point, but we could still hike a lot of the other eruption points because seismologists and volcanologists knew, like the scientists there knew, that we would be okay in this one part of it because a different part of it was erupting. What's got people worried about Iceland is that we don't really know when it's going to blow or where, because we're up to 3 different spots looking active right now. Actually, that's another thing I want to pull up. Let's go to the Icelandic Meteorological Office and look at their reports of the earthquakes, because their earthquake data doesn't always make it up to everyone else. Okay, we've just had a couple just in the last hour over here on the Reykjanes Peninsula again. Can we see weekly overview? Oh, that's not going to have a map. Let's look at the Vatnajökull. Oh, Jökulhlaup. That is Jökulhlaup. That is the word I was looking for. The glacier flood. The glacier flood that happens when magma comes up underneath the glacier. It's called a stratovolcano when there's a glacier on top and magma coming from beneath. It'll melt a little pool of water up in here. Melts a little pool, and then eventually that pool of melted water gets so large that it makes the ice above it buoyant enough to lift up, and the water that lifted it up slides out, and then the ice comes back down. And in Icelandic, they call it a jökulhlaup, which I think is just the funnest word. But also, you can see why they call this Vatnajökull, because this is where the Jökulhlaups happen. It's just so fun to say that word. Jökulhlaup. Jökulhlaup. Feel so fun, so fancy saying it. But they have also had 2 earthquakes in the past 4 hours. Not what you want to see for something that's calming down. Not something you want to see if it's chill and normal. The Reykjanes Ridge, this little line is the goes to the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. It's the top part of it. And lots of earthquakes happen there. I wanted to see up in no, I'm trying to find, there was one in the northern part of the country that I can't remember what it's called, that they had some earthquake activity. And they had one up off the north coast. Well, let's look at do they have any more updates on Svartsengi? Continued likelihood of an eruption at the Sundhnúksgígar crater row. Sundhnúksgígar. Sundhnúksgígar crater row. God, that's hard to say. Good googly moogly, that is hard to say. They've updated the hazard map, but they didn't change any of the hazard threat levels, which, again, I still think it's weird that they have yellow on either side of the red. And anyway, it's probably because the coastal town is more susceptible to cracking because it's like newer earth, but I don't like it. Yeah. Does it have the evacuation announcement? It doesn't have the evacuation announcement on here, but I don't remember where I saw the evacuation announcement. Let's go ahead and hide this on stream. Thanks for sticking around, everybody who made it this far through the video. I had no active viewers, but I know that people are telling me they're rewatching it. The stats say that you're rewatching it, so I hope y'all are enjoying this Rearcast. Calling it a Rearcast because we're looking back in time. We're not forward casting, we are rear casting. Because I'm not a forecaster. I'm just telling you what actually happened. I'm not trying to say what will happen. Let's see if I mentioned everything I wrote. I don't think that I looked at my notes once. Sunspot from New Year's Eve returning soon. The snow machine in the U.S. evolves to a northern latitude continuous blizzard, southern latitudes continuous rain and wind. An Arctic blast is on the way, that cold pool sweeping in from the northwest. I showed the recap of observations. One thing I wanted to mention about the planets is that I see Uranus, whatever. I see Uranus. I see Uranus as a planet of meteorology. And what I mean by that is it was discovered around the time that meteorology as a scientific discipline came into being. Now, I've got some thoughts and feelings about the history of meteorology before the Nordic schools got into it. I think that all cultures have a history of meteorology that didn't get translated in the scientific revolution, but I digress. Uranus is like, what if we had just brand new thoughts, just complete brand new thoughts? I think the current, anyway, I see, and based on my studying of earthquakes as well, I think that Uranus aspecting Mars or Saturn is not a great indicator for stability. A Mars Uranus aspect is spicy. A Mars Uranus aspect stuff could happen. Later in Capricorn season, we're going to get Mars aspecting Uranus, Mars trining Uranus. And so I'm interested to see what'll happen. Let's see, what is that? What's that date? I'm not the human ephemeris. January 29th. Okay, January 29th, Mars and Uranus will go into an exact trine. I feel like maybe January 29th, Pluto will be in Aquarius now. Mars trining Uranus. I feel like something is going to happen around the time of January 29th. But again, I'm not a forecaster. Just speculator. Speculating that we have a lot of stuff ready to blow. A lot of stuff ready to blow that might switch up the power structure. That might wake people up to the fact that authorities don't necessarily have your best interest at heart. I know this sounds like a little, where am I going with this? But I'm not trying to get too off the rails. I'm just saying, we live in a world where the material matters to a lot of people. We're living in a material world, but we're spiritual beings. We have a soul. Just like the solar system has planets, but it's got a sun in the middle of it. We've got a body, but we've got a sun in the middle of it. I'm not going to expand more on that. I think that might be a good enough update for today. I think I will be going live again later tonight to be updating my streaming room. So if you want to see me decorating, come back later tonight. All right, that's it for me today, guys. Don't forget to follow all of my favorite YouTubers. I'm going to try to build my recommended channels into my channel later today. And thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, anybody you know who's a nerd or just wants to know about, just likes watching weather stuff. I think that I don't know any other meteorologists who also take into account the motions of the planets. But, and I don't know any astrologers who notice the weather as much as I do. So if you know anyone into astrometeorology, please send them to this channel. All right. Let's go ahead and give you a fun little thought to meditate on. Going around the beautiful mic. Again, guys, these are not devil cards. These are not magic cards. These are little positive sayings and truths about the universe that I think will resonate with a lot of people. This one says, for today, I look for positive aspects in every experience. That is a recipe for happiness. I look for positive aspects in every experience. Within every particle of the universe is that which is wanted and lack of it. By looking for the positive aspects of whatever you are giving your attention to, you maintain your connection to well-being. Within every particle of the universe that is wanted, Within every particle of the universe is that which is wanted and lack of it. by looking for the positive aspects of whatever you are giving to your attention to, you maintain your connection to well-being. There's a little good and a little bad in everything. Just take what resonates and leave the rest. Just like this. Take what resonates, leave the rest. It's okay. If you don't like the card part or the stars part, that's okay. I'm still talking about the weather. If you don't like the weather part, I'm still talking about the vibes, okay? Weather is our collective vibes. Weather is our collective soul. Weather is the human soul linking us together. It's the breath that we all share. All right. Be safe. Take care of yourself. Look at my pretty purple tea. Have a great evening.